The air in that remote cabin should have been pure cleansing. Instead, it grew thick with a truth. I couldn't speak a truth that began to unravel the moment my son Liam leaned down that night, when his lips brushed my forehead, a gesture too tender, too lingering to be simply filial. A tremor went through me. I didn't pull away. In that frozen moment suspended between the silent snow-covered peaks of the Silver Peak Mountains and the echoing hollow within me, I didn't think about right or wrong. I only registered the searing, unexpected comfort of a touch that felt like a lifeline in an ocean of solitude. What grew from that instant was a silent storm, one that threatened to sweep away everything I knew. The holidays had leached the very marrow from my bones, leaving behind a weariness that wasn't just physical. It was a soul-deep exhaustion, the kind that settles in the quiet corners of a life lived too long in the shadows of unspoken needs. So when Liam, my 19-year-old son, suggested a week away, just the two of us, his voice held a gentle persuasion I couldn't find the strength to question. He'd found a cabin rental, he said, nestled deep in a snow-choked valley. Remote quiet, no Wi-Fi, no neighbors. He'd added a ghost of that mischievous smile that years ago could charm his way out of any trouble. Just us, Mom. He handled everything, the sturdy four-wheel drive, the groceries carefully chosen, even my preferred blend of calming tea. It was a seamless display of capability that went beyond mere thoughtfulness. Lately, Liam had shed the last vestiges of boyhood. He moved with a quiet confidence, his shoulders broader, his gaze more direct, carrying an unexpected gravity that made me feel seen in a way I hadn't for years. The drive was long, the landscape a stark white canvas under a bruised sky trees, like frosted sentinels. When we finally reached the isolated cabin, silence enveloped us, profound and absolute, broken only by the crunch of snow under our boots and the distant sigh of the wind. That first evening, by the hesitant glow of an electric fireplace, we drank tea and talked. Really talked. He asked about my younger days' dreams I'd long since buried. I asked about his, the future stretching before him, so vast and unknown. It was as if we were relearning a lost language stripped of the usual distractions that buffered our interactions. I watched him, the way his hands moved, the way his eyes held mine when I spoke, and a strange dormant ache stirred within me. Not desire, not then, but a pang of recognition for a part of myself I thought had vanished. Here in this cocoon of snow and silence, I wasn't just a mother, an ex-wife, a woman holding herself together. I felt with a startling clarity like Eleanor again. The cabin was small wood-paneled, with a tiny kitchenette and a fold-out couch facing the faux flames. It wasn't luxurious, but it felt like enough, more than enough. Outside, heavy snowflakes drifted down, muffling the world, suspending time. Liam unpacked a low hum in his throat, while I sank onto the couch watching him. Memories flickered, packing his school lunches, tying his small shoes. Now he stood taller than me, stronger, arranging blankets and brewing tea with an intuitive grace. He caught my faint smile. "You okay, Mom?" he asked, glancing over. "Just glad to be here," I managed. He nodded, then came over and gently draped a wool blanket over my lap. "Let's make it a good week." We made pasta in the tiny kitchen, our elbows brushing a comfortable shared laughter that felt like a scene from a life I almost remembered. He lit a battery-operated lantern for the center of the table, a small, intimate glow. His gaze on me that night felt different. Not a boy looking at his mother, but a man seeing a woman weary. Complex, the parts of me I usually kept hidden. Later I saw him standing outside, face tilted to the falling snow, his silhouettes dark against the white. In that moment, perhaps I too momentarily forgot I was his mother. It began with the smallest things. Liam would pour my tea before I asked. He'd anticipate when I felt a chill, his hand instinctively adjusting the blanket around my shoulders. A gesture so natural, it seemed an extension of his breath. One evening, playing cards by the fire, I laughed at a silly victory. And he watched me, his expression thoughtful. "You look different when you smile like that," he murmured. Different how I asked, a lightness in my voice I hadn't heard in ages, like the way it's gone. His words stilled me. I looked down at my cards, feigning focus to hide the sudden flutter in my chest. Later, watching an old movie on his laptop, I was bundled on the couch. He sat beside me close, but not touching. When our hands brushed, reaching for popcorn, we both flinched. But when his eyes met mine, there was no awkwardness, only a quiet, searching look, as if waiting for a cue I didn't give. Neither of us spoke of it. The snow whispered against the roof, a soft, insistent rhythm. That night, sleep eluded me not from fear or shame, but because, for the first time in what felt like a lifetime, the numbness had receded. I was feeling again. On our fourth day, the world outside was a silver-gilt painting. Liam suggested one last trail walk before dusk. My knee twinged in protest, but his quiet enthusiasm was infectious. We layered up and set out. The trail wound through silent, snow-laden pines. Conversation was sparse, just the rhythmic crunch of our boots, and the occasional playful remark from him that earned an eye roll from me, though my heart felt strangely lighter. His glance, his back, as if to ensure I was still there, felt like threads of connection in the vast quiet. Then, rounding a bend, my boot hit a hidden patch of ice. It happened so fast, a loss of footing, a sharp, searing pain, as I went down hard on my side. A cry escaped me before I could stifle it. "Mom!" Liam was there in an instant, kneeling in the snow. "Where does it hurt my leg?" I gasped the pain, a sickening throb. I think I twisted something badly. "Stay still," he said, his voice calm but firm. Before I could argue, he'd scooped me up, one arm under my knees, the other around my back, as if I weighed nothing. "Liam, I can walk," I protested, mortified. "No," he said, his tone gentle but absolute. "You don't have to prove anything right now. Let me take care of you." Back at the cabin, he settled me on the couch, his touch surprisingly tender, efficient. He elevated my leg, found an ice pack, and sat beside me, his brow furrowed with concern, wincing when I winced. "We'll go home tomorrow," he said, "but tonight you rest. I'll handle everything." I looked at him, and for a moment the boy I knew vanished. A man sat before me, and an unnamed emotion bloomed in the space between us. Sleep was impossible that night due to the throbbing in my leg. I tossed and turned, the wind howling outside, rattling the cabin's thin walls. A strange heat bloomed under my skin, followed by a bone-deep chill. My breath grew shallow. My forehead was burning. "Liam," I whispered, my voice hoarse. He was there in seconds. "Mum, what's wrong?" I think I have a fever." I murmured, a wave of dizziness washing over me. He didn't hesitate. Kneeling, he pressed his hand to my forehead, his touch cool. "You're burning up." Silently, he fetched another blanket. Then, to my surprise, he sat on the couch behind me. My exhaustion was too profound to protest. "It's too cold for you to be alone right now," he said simply. His arms came around me from behind, drawing me back against his solid warmth. "You need body heat," he murmured, his voice a low vibration against my hair. "Just relax. I've got you." For the first time in years, I let someone hold me. Really hold me. I sagged against him, his breath stirring the hair at my nape. One of his hands rested gently on my stomach. The other circled my arm, a slow, soothing rhythm. The shivering subsided. My breathing evened. His touch was unhurried, secure. His chin rested near my temple. I could feel the steady beat of his heart against my back, strong, unwavering. "I'm here," he whispered. I know I breathed, my eyelids heavy. Then in the dimness, his lips touched my forehead. It wasn't the kiss of a son. It wasn't the kiss of a friend. It was something else, a silent affirmation. "You matter. All of you." I didn't move. I didn't want to. Held in his arms. I felt myself drifting towards sleep. A genuine safe sleep for the first time in what felt like an eternity. Sunlight striped the floor when I woke, cocooned in an unfamiliar, intense warmth. Liam's arm was still around me, his breathing deep and even against my back. I should have moved. I should have created distance. I didn't. He stirred his eyes, fluttering open, meeting mine in that hazy, preconscious moment. Feeling better, he asked, his voice husky. He raised his hand, his fingers brushing a stray strand of hair from my temple, lingering a fraction too long. A current passed between us, unspoken, undeniable. My leg kept me mostly couch-bound that day. Liam cooked, cleaned, adjusted the pillows under my foot, without a word from me. When I thanked him, he just smiled. You spend your whole life taking care of everyone else, Mom. Let someone take care of you for a change. As afternoon faded, he sat beside me, his fingers beginning to gently knead my calf. His touch was strong, respectful, until his hand drifted a fraction higher. Not too high, not overtly improper, but higher than before. He wasn't looking at me. I let him. I closed my eyes, telling myself it was just comfort, that it meant nothing. But it did. When I opened them, he was watching me, not like a boy, not like a son, but like someone who had seen all of me, the broken parts and the hidden strengths, and wasn't afraid. That night, a profound quiet filled the cabin, not empty but full, like a breath held in anticipation. We were on the couch again. The movie on the laptop was a blur. My entire awareness was consumed by his hand resting on mine. Casually it seemed, yet not. His thumb began a slow, repetitive stroke along the back of my hand, as if he were lost in thought, unaware of the tenderness in the gesture. I let it continue. My breath hitched. Time slowed. Then his voice soft, not looking at me. Can I tell you something and you promise not to react? My heart leaped. Okay. He took a deep breath. I've been feeling things lately. Things I don't think I'm supposed to feel. I turned to him then. What kind of things? His gaze dropped to our joined hands, then lifted back to my face, unwavering. I love you, Mom, but it's not just as my mother. The silence in the room was a living thing. He kept speaking, his voice low, steady. I don't know when it started. Maybe here, maybe before. But it's more than admiration, more than just being close. I'm drawn to you, Eleanor, and I hate how wrong it probably is. But it's the truth. My throat closed. I don't know what to say, I whispered. You don't have to say anything, he said quickly. I couldn't pretend anymore. He started to pull his hand away. I tightened my grip, holding him there. He looked at me, surprised. I'm confused too, Liam. I admitted, the words costing me more than he could know. But I know you matter to me more than words can say. In that moment, something shifted irrevocably between us. Not in words, not in actions, but in the delicate, charged space between two souls who had finally voiced the unvoiceable. The remaining days were different. The unspoken hung between us. Yet it wasn't awkward. It was full. Liam kept a careful physical distance, yet the space between us felt more intimate than any touch. He'd sit a little closer. His hand would hesitate a moment longer, near mine. When he helped me to the kitchen, his arm around my waist was steady, but it felt less like support and more like an embrace. When I sat, he would gently arrange my injured leg, his touch making me feel not helpless, but cherished. We watched the snow fall in a silence that was brimming with unsaid words, with gazes that lingered too long, with breaths that seemed to sink in the quiet air. One evening, the wind howled and the lights flickered. Liam lit lanterns, made tea, and piled blankets on the couch. Cold, he asked softly. He sat beside me, arranging a blanket over us, his arms settling around my shoulders. I leaned my head against him, and we just sat there, breathing in unison. As he drifted to sleep, his hand found mine. I stayed awake, looking at our entwined fingers, thinking of all the years I'd given pieces of myself away, just wanting to be truly seen. And here in this quiet space, without labels, without rules, without the noise of the world, I felt seen. I felt whole. I didn't know what tomorrow would bring. But in that moment under the blankets in the lantern light, I wasn't his mother, and he wasn't my son. We were simply two souls, holding each other our last evening in the cabin. The snow had stopped, and the world outside was a hushed white stillness. Inside, the air was thick with suspense, like the moment before a page is turned. We were on the couch, the lantern casting a warm golden glow. My leg was better, but I leaned against Liam, my head on his shoulder. He was quiet, just holding my hand, his fingers tracing patterns on my skin, as if memorizing me. After a long silence, he spoke. "Do you ever wonder what it would be like if it was just us?" I looked at him, unsure. "What do you mean?" He looked away, then back his eyes, gentle, vulnerable, without having to explain, without the world outside this cabin, without the roles we didn't choose. I paused before answering, because deep down, the thought or something like it had been there. Not in words, not in conscious dreams, but in the quiet moments, in the feel of his touch, in the way he filled a space in me I hadn't known was empty. "It sounds peaceful," I finally said. "But life isn't that simple, Liam." I know he whispered, but I wish it could be. I looked at him, then really looked. There was no anger in his face, no demand. Only a quiet hope mingled with a profound, searching affection. I reached out, covering his hand with both of mine. "We can't escape the world, my dear," I said softly. "But I am so very grateful for this, for us, even if it's just for now." He nodded his thumb, stroking the back of my hand. Silence settled again, but within it, a truth resonated. This was more than an escape. It was a place neither of us had known existed until we found ourselves there together. With the dawn, a quiet finality settled. The sun rose, painting the snow-covered valley in soft golds and pinks. Inside the cabin, the stillness was profound, as if the universe held its breath before releasing us back into the world. Liam helped me dress, packed our bags with few words. There was a tenderness in his every movement, an awareness that something precious and fragile was ending. Before we left, he helped me with my coat, buttoning it carefully, then held my gaze for a long silent moment. Only that look, the quiet ache of an unnameable truth. We stepped out into the crisp air. The snow crunched under our boots as we walked to the car. Liam took my hand, not for guidance, not out of duty, but simply because he wanted to. At the crest of the hill, he stopped. The valley spread before us, a pristine blanket of white, untouched, infinite. He squeezed my hand. "I'll never forget this week, Eleanor." He said, his voice low. "Me neither." "Liam," I murmured. We stood there, fingers entwined, looking back at the place where something inexplicable, unforeseen, and profoundly human had been allowed to breathe. No promises were made, no lines explicitly defined for the future. Yet something within us, both had shifted irrevocably. As we drove down the mountain, I watched Liam from the passenger seat. His eyes were on the road, his profile calm, steady. But when his gaze met mine in the rearview mirror, a small shared smile passed between us. It was a smile that held all the truths words could never touch. Sometimes the deepest connections are the ones that find us in the silences, the ones that show us parts of ourselves we thought were lost forever.